We have a legal component that has been on the front lines of providing assistance with veterans to access their VA health care compensation in the form of service-connected disability and pensions. Sorts of Plowshares was conceptualized in 1974, and that's one of the first things that we did. We had a veterans population that was disenfranchised from the VA, and the organization was started by 3 or 4 veterans who felt that the idea of vets helping veterans was the key. I think one of the differences that we look at the Vietnam veteran and the veteran from World War II. You know, we had these heroes and these veterans of World War II. You know, they left as a unit and they were able to come home as a unit on these boats. This nice slow boat where everybody got to talk, everybody got to decompress. They got to talk about their losses. They got to cry amongst men who went through the same thing with them. The men in Vietnam and the men and women who are serving this present conflict, everything's so fast. One minute you're in a huge shitstorm and the next minute you're back home. There's no way to decompress. But anyways, our legal unit was at the forefront of getting some of the first claims for veterans related post-traumatic stress disorder. We were at the forefront of the case to get veterans compensation for Agent Orange. Agent Orange was the chemical that was used to defoliate the forests in Vietnam. Veterans to this day still suffer from the effects of Agent Orange in the forms of eczema on their skins and type 2 diabetes and heart problems, you name it. It was just a horrible, horrible, horrible chemical. We have a transitional treatment program on Treasure Island, which a lot of veterans who are incarcerated are able to enter that program. I call it transitional treatment because it's a little bit of a hybrid program. It's actually funded through HUD and VA grant per diem. So the length of the program is 2 years. So there's quite a bit of time for a veteran to get the needed treatment that he needs. Within that program, there's also what's called a VA-funded special needs program. One of the big problems with the VA is in San Francisco is a lot of the residential services have been shut down. There was a study that was done about 8 years ago that said that there was no difference between residential treatment and an outpatient basis, and no difference between substance abuse treatment on an outpatient basis and on a residential basis. So as a consequence of that, the VA closed the residential programs at Fort Miley. And they also closed the residential dual diagnosis programs. Well, we were able to recently get funded to have 20 beds for residential treatment for veterans at our program at Treasure Island. Now, this is important because one of the things that we try to do is to link veterans with community-based dual diagnosis residential programs. Well, the problem with that is there is a gatekeeper, and many times in the past, and even currently, what will happen is because the system is at capacity, when we will try to make a referral to one of those programs, the person who is manning the gate will say, oh, no, he's a veteran, send him to the VA. Well, that would be all right if there was a duplication of services, but there's just little 20 beds there. There's not a lot of beds. So we've always had a problem with that. We actually went to Dr. Bob Sabai and many years ago and said, this is not fair. For a man or for a woman who has served their country and put their life on the line, if anybody has the right to have 2 sets of health care, it should be a veteran, and they should not be denied services. Dr. Sabai said, take it easy, Johnny, take it easy. He wrote a letter, and this letter exists today. It's a living document. And every couple of years, I have to get him to reissue the letter because the people who man the gates for these programs, to get into these programs, well, they change, and they don't know. And they're trying to fit 20 people in 3 or 4 beds. And the first thing they do is try to triage out people, and they look at a person and see they're a vet, and say, well, get rid of them and send them to the VA. So this is a living, working document, and it's a fight we continuously have to fight. That's one of the barriers that we have in accessing healthcare services. One of the other problems that we face is this thing that's happening. It's called the fleeing felons law. It's continuing. It's a huge stone in my shoe. And what this law says is that if you have a open felony on the books, and what they periodically do, they go through the NCIC computer and they go through the Social Security numbers, and they match up the Social Security number. And if you have an open felony anywhere in the country, well, what will happen is the VA will cut off your financial assistance, which has all type of ramifications. But what they also do is they deny you health care. So you can no longer access any VA services at all. And many times we've discovered that it's a mistake. The person has already cleared the warrant, they've already done the time, and it's just a clerical error. And it just plays hell trying to get it straightened out. Housing. Man, housing, San Francisco housing. Where do you find housing? You know, we're living in San Francisco. I mean, it's a continuing struggle. The mayor's Housing First program has its upsides, and it obviously has its downsides. One of the biggest losses to me as a direct service provider was the loss of a man's place shelter. Now, a lot of people looked at a man's place shelter and said, oh man, it was just a shelter. But you know what? It was a shelter that was clean, it was well lighted, it had good on-site support services. There were people there that were on the same page, that was trying to get clean, and it was helpful. It was a place to launch from to do other things. You could launch from there to go in employment. You could launch from there to go into a program. You could be there in case you were applying for SSI or VA pension, and you had a place that I could find you. With the current system we have now, it makes my job very, very difficult. So the barriers that my veterans face are not dissimilar to the barriers that all the other providers have spoken about. And then there are some extra ones. Prison is a gladiator school. And what better, the original gladiator school, quite frankly, is the military. We instill in our children a set of moral codes, and one of the things is not to kill. And I think what happens is we take these young men and women and we wipe the slate clean, and we re-imprint on them a different set of values. And then we send them off to these far-off countries, and they kill. And they do things that are totally foreign to them. And then we send them back home, and we don't help them heal. Right. We do it just like the lady from Corrections was talking about. We send them $200 and send them out the gate. In many instances, that's what happens with these young men and women who are over there fighting now. There are 140,000 men and women over there fighting in Iraq and Afghanistan now. They're OEF and OFI veterans. It's called the Global War on Terror. Each one of them I support. Each one of them I will support when they get back. We are going to have a whole new crop of veterans who are going to need our services. They are going to replace the Vietnam veterans in the system. 1.5 million men and women have rotated through there to date, doing 2 or 3 tours. The flavor of Vietnam and the flavor over there are very, very similar. We're creating a whole new crop of veterans who are going to be occupying the prison system. We need to be prepared for them. We need to be here to support them. I hope you will be there to support them, because Swords to Plowshares will definitely be there to support them. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, we have run out of time and have gone over, in fact, into the other panel. I would just like to give this panel a really big round of applause for their compassion and excellent presentations. Thank you very much.